Yo, what's going on, guys? Troy back again here to bring you another video. This one's going to be talking about The Walking Dead. How did the zombie infection or outbreak, zombie apocalypse, all get started? So, was the virus engineered? How was it? Was it a religious thing? Maybe, possibly. And which would fit with The Walking Dead? Well, the thing about The Walking Dead is that they pretty much will probably never explain to us or show us the beginning of how the zombie outbreak started, of how the infection was, the virus was either designed or created, or this kind of stuff. Pretty much, The Walking Dead itself is not actually a story that's based around the zombies. It's a story that's based around the characters. So the zombies themselves and how the infection itself got started is probably something that we'll never get to see. We'll never get to see it in either the television show or the comic book, most likely. It is something a lot of people, kind of wonder about and kind of have asked questions about to, the producers of the show, this kind of stuff, Robert Kirkman, people involved. And, it's just something that they haven't addressed, and they're probably never going to write it in. Really, when it comes to this issue of how it actually got started, it's kind of up to you. They kind of leave it up to the viewer or the reader for which explanation they like the best. Pretty much, there's three main ones that I can think of that you could go with this and how the virus was created. You can either look at it from a religious perspective, so you can look at it as sort of like back in Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, when you've got the pastor on the news station, and he says, when there's no more room left in hell, the dead will roam the earth. So you can look at it as like a religious thing there, with like, God doing this to lower the population, or or to cause death and destruction, this kind of stuff, for religious reasons, or whatever, biblical proportions, all this kind of stuff. So that's the first one that you can look at it as, and there's really no reason people can't look at it that way if they want to. The Walking Dead itself is not particularly a religious show. There are a couple religious characters, like obviously Herschel is religious. Rick is sort of, maybe he was, but then he's not, and he's not after his son gets shot. So, with Rick, it's kind of like you don't know. A lot of the other characters too, you're just not sure. So, we haven't seen too much religion in the show. The other one is my favorite out of the three, which is military. So. The other explanation is that the military sort of, designed it, weaponized the biological virus through biowarfare, this kind of stuff, and created it in order to use for weaponization against other countries or whatever. And it somehow got out, maybe through the testing of it or this kind of stuff. It just became so contagious and it spread that way. So sort of through weaponization. That one's probably, I think, the best and the most realistic way to look at how it would have gotten started, because I think if you look at the third one, which is sort of like the 28 days later version of it, which I think has some cool parts about it, but basically what it is it's kind of like created by, educational facility, like Cambridge, I think University it was, I'm pretty sure, in 28 days later, something like that. And yeah, it's created like a school where they're studying like apes and stuff, and you've got like this monkey, and he's got like his eyes like taped open like this, and he's watching these different like monitors. There's all these monitors, and each one has like just footage of playing over and over again of like riots and just people like being angry and fighting and all this kind of stuff, and through operant conditioning and probably torture on the monkeys and maybe some kind of biological manipulation. They were able to create this kind of, virus using them, and they call it rage. And then, basically it ends up getting out, and it just spreads everywhere. So that's kind of like the other way to look at it. Me personally, I like to look at it not from like an educational school would do that, because they have to, go along with rules and the law, and they can't do things like that. They can't experiment like that, on subjects, or even like monkeys and stuff. I mean, anything they do, they got to be very careful about whatever they do. So I like the explanation for the sort of like the military, because the military, they don't follow the law at all. I mean, at all. Like most countries, they have their military, and they just do whatever they want. They don't abide by the the rules of that normal citizens do, because I mean obviously they're creating weapons, so they just do whatever they want, and test it and everything. And so that to me is probably, I think that's the best way to look at it for how it started and spread. Was that it was probably like the U.S. military, or one of these countries, could be in the U.K. or whatever. It doesn't matter too much. But and then it just kind of spread from there. And being as how the virus is sort of like people can carry it through the air, through breathing around each other and this kind of stuff. Then they could get on planes and go to different spots, and they could just spread like like anthrax or something like super contagious. And then when people die anywhere, if they carry that, they're going to turn. So then you've got outbreaks everywhere, and there's no way that it could probably. It's just so contagious. There's no way they could control it. So that to me is like my favorite way to look at it. But again, it's sort of like a choose your own destiny type thing. I mean, there's no real correct answer unless they decide to change their minds and write it in somewhere in either the comic book or the TV show. I don't think they will, at least not. I don't think Robert Kirkman will, because he seems to be pretty content on making the story about the characters and not about the zombies. So yeah, so that's pretty much this video, guys. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think, and which of the three is your favorite explanation, or if you have another explanation. Feel free. I mean, you could also think of it as like maybe like a evolutionary thing, but I mean that doesn't make sense, because in terms of evolution, things evolve to survive, not to, you could say it's like maybe like a mutation of some kind. I don't know. That's just a little bit, I don't know. That's kind of hard to see, because the whole thing about evolution is that it's all based on survival, and whichever traits help a creature survive, or animal or whatever survive, those are going to propagate later on through the lineage. So I don't know. Evolutionary doesn't make sense to me, but there may be some other theories that I haven't thought of that maybe people could think of how this type of thing would get started. Anyway, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on it. Let's talk about it later, guys. Peace.